TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Good evening, Exeter. As the hour is now 7 p.m., I will call the March 25th, 2024 Town of Exeter Select Board meeting to order. Good evening to my colleagues on the board, respective town staff, those in attendance this evening, and certainly those that are watching at home. Start by introducing the board. To my right, Selectman Dan Chartrand. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Our Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cowan. Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
To my left, our Clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Selectwoman Nancy Belanger. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Our Town Manager, Mr. Russ Dean. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
We also offline have our Assistant Town Manager, Melissa Roy, our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening. And my name is Nico Papakostandis. We have a lot to cover tonight, so we'll start with the swearing in of elected officials. As you know, we had to adjourn our meeting last week for several reasons, but we're fortunate to have some of our elected officials here this evening. We want to congratulate them before they get sworn in. Our town clerk is here, and we did swear in Selectwoman Cowan Wednesday morning at our special Select Board meeting, but we want to congratulate her now prime time, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So with that, Madam Clerk, I will turn it over to you.
Could I have the election officials that were elected up here that need to be sworn in? Anthony, you're the only one?
No, they're all.
No, Christine?
I guess we're all doing.
Yeah, we're going to do it all
I
together.
don't know if there's other groups coming.
No, we're going to do it all together. If you guys could stand this way in a circle, this way, facing me, facing me. Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me and state your position
Recommendations can all learn.
according to the best of my abilities,
According to the best of my ability.
agreeable to the rules and regulations of this Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. So help me God. Congratulations.
Try it again, like do a little better this time. I need a do-over.
Thank you for another year on the Budget Recommendations Committee, everyone.
You got to sign your paperwork.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. Thank you for volunteering again for the BRC. We do have some other elected officials that are not here this evening, but we want to congratulate them also on serving the town in their respective offices. At this point in time, it is that time of year where we do the Select Board reorganization. We have 3 offices. We have the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk. So at this time, we'll start with the chair. I would entertain any nominations for chair.
I will move for Mr. See, I can't say your name when I try it. Papakostandis to be the chair.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I'm honored and humbled in your continued patience with me, I guess. But
Your
thank
patience.
you. And it is a privilege to serve in this capacity, and I appreciate that. This time, I would entertain a nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Molly Cowan for vice chair.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you again for your confidence.
And I would entertain a motion to nominate our clerk for the Select Board.
I will nominate Julie Gilman to be clerk.
Second.
Second.
That's a motion in several seconds. Any other nominations? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? As there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to note that we should file all that under "it ain't broke, so don't fix it."
I will second what Dan just said.
I want to say thank you for letting me read all the exemptions and abatements.
It is a
And
pleasure.
proclamations.
Proclamation.
Fun things as well, right? Yeah.
Thank you all, the three of you, for
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
your roles.
So let's start in with our business. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to come in and weigh in with any comments to the board. We do ask, though, if your comments are relative to an agenda item, you wait until that agenda item comes up. And I will pause for a moment to see if there's any public comment, and I'd also like to look and see if there's anybody on Zoom. Two people on Zoom, none of them with their hands up. Last call? Okay. There are no proclamations this evening, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but I would like to recognize that in the newest edition of New Hampshire Town and City, which is a publication that's put forward by the New Hampshire Municipal Association, of which the town of Exeter is a member. It's a wonderful periodical that addresses municipal news, municipal concerns. The NHMA, of course, is a lobbyist on behalf of municipalities. And again, all the municipalities, I believe, in New Hampshire are members of NHMA, but particular interest, I'd like to mention proudly that there are two members of Exeter who are profiled. The first of which is Lang Plummer, who is the chair of the planning board, and Lang has been on the board for almost 30 years. There's a nice profile on Lang. And then also Renee Allen, who formerly was the chair of the Energy Committee and has done so much volunteer work on behalf of the town of Exeter. So I did want to recognize them and congratulate them for this honor. Okay, we have 5 sets of minutes to go through. Start with the meeting minutes of March 4th. Are there any amendments or revisions?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Please.
On page 1 of the Monday, March 4th, 2024, number 3, it's proclamations and recognitions, but it should be resignations.
The resignation was after the, so it goes proclamations, recognitions, and then resignation?
Right, but the resignation is under proclamations.
I see. So that's the next one down, Joanna? Okay. Any other revisions?
No.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Town of Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of March 4th, 2024 as revised.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We also have our regular meeting minutes of February 26, 2024. Ask if there are any amendments or revisions. Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the Town of Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of February 26, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And then we have our regular meeting minutes from our abbreviated meeting of March 18th, 2024. Any amendments or revisions?
No.
I would like to apologize for missing my train.
That's okay. If there are no revisions, I would entertain a motion to approve the Town of Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of March 18th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I abstain.
Motion passes 4-0 with an abstention. Then we have our special meeting minutes from March 8th, 2024. The minutes themselves are not special, but the meeting was special. Any revisions?
No.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Town of Exeter Select Board special meeting minutes of March 18th, 2024.
So moved.
March 8th, forgive me.
Second.
Still so moved.
I'm sorry?
Still so moved.
Okay.
Still
Moved in
second.
a second. Any discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
I'm abstaining.
One abstention, 4-0 and abstention. And the last group of minutes would be from the Town of Exeter Select Board Special Meeting of March 20th, 2024. Are there any amendments or revisions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Town of Exeter Select Board Special Meeting minutes of March 20th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we do not have any appointments or resignations this evening, so we can jump right into our discussion items. The first discussion item is an update from the town manager on the food truck update. And I asked the town manager to put this on the agenda last week when Wednesday morning, I think everybody that saw the Seacoast Online saw that there was going to be a new food truck in the spot that's permitted out here. This was the first I think any of us learned of that, other than in the town department's office that handles the permitting. So I thought it would be a good idea for Mr. Dean to update the board on this change and obviously update the public. But before we do that, I'd like to just take a quick moment and talk about 2021, because we have two members of the select board here who were not on the board in 2021. And back in the spring of 21, this matter came before the select board, and the select board worked to revise the permitting process. At that time, there was a request to invest in several parking spaces out by Townhouse Common for vendor trucks. And at that time, we decided that this spot out here was a little bit more of a premium, and the board worked through a process that created an RFP process for bidding for this space. The select board delegated the bidding process, the permitting process, to go through the town manager's office, similar to how the board has Parks and Rec handle permitting for most of the town properties, including Swayze Parkway. So I think we can look back at what we did 3 years ago and say that it was a start. We addressed a situation where we had a longtime business partner who had been using that space, and we worked with him back in 2021 while creating those other spaces. I think what we have here this evening in our packet is an opportunity to review 3 years later, what we came up with during the pandemic still. I mean, I remember the meeting was on Zoom. Sir, I think I met you via Zoom, and it's nice to see you in person. So it's worked, but it's not perfect. So I think a couple things I'd like to accomplish tonight. First of all, I'm excited to hear Mr. Dean's update. He's going to walk us through the process for this last RFP. He's going to bring us up to date where we are. When he's done, I'd like the select board to take time to ask questions, make comments about the update, and then also talk about whether it's time to sort of revise this process moving forward. Once we're done, if there are members of the public that would like to come up and make comment, ask questions, make suggestions, we'd be all for that. I think back in 2021, we took a lot of public comment too while we worked through this. So the way that we can make this the best policy for our citizens, for our business owners that want to utilize these spaces, is to work collectively, not only with respective town departments, but hear from you as well. So that's the goal tonight. What action will be taken? I don't think there'll be any action taken, but I think it's a good starting point between now and December 31st, 24, to sort of work through how we can make this process better, and also ask, what type of business do we want in that spot? My understanding, and Mr. Dean will talk more about this, but my understanding was the The bidder for this year was more of a food, not prepared food, but more of a cooking
Cooking
type of
food.
restaurant.
Right.
I'll set the stage by saying, personally, that's a very dangerous intersection out there. We've been fortunate that our business owner that has occupied that space, first of all, it's more prepared foods, but has really worked hard to provide the safety for his customers, for our citizens. And I think if we're going to continue to use that space, we need to sort of identify what parameters we want simply for the safety of our citizens. So with that, Mr. Dean, I'll turn it over to you if you could walk us through
Sure.
the last 5 months or so.
So, as you noted, Mr. Chair, we had a competitive bid process for the space out in right near the bandstand, and we had a bid opening on December 1st. That happened at 3:45, and that was actually after the bids were advertised on our town website and in the newspaper. We opened 2 bids, and we received a bid from Michael Oliveira, who bid $4,000 for the spot, and then Clyde Bullins, he bid $2,500 for the spot. So we were looking at their particular bids. They both responded positively to the bid specifications, and we reviewed the bids and evaluated them. At that point, and this was December 1st was the bid opening. On December 5th, we had a concern about the lead bidder with the truck and the size of the truck, and we were told that the truck that the lead bidder would have was going to be 18 feet long for a 19-foot, 6-inch space. So we felt that that was okay at that time. After evaluating that piece, we have sent letters out to Mike Oliveira and Clyde Bullen regarding award of the space. So we did that at that point. Before any contract could be signed or agreement could be made, we needed certain things from the high bidder. One was a VIN number and a license plate number of the vehicle, and also a business name from the winning bidder. So we asked for that information. On December 12th, we investigated an issue of a trailer hitch, basically with because anything outside the parking space would be a concern for us. So we did look at that with Primex, and they advised us about white no-occupy zones, and that could be an issue that could be resolved through having those. And also they recommended cones and reflective tape. So that issue was resolved on or about December 19th. So on December 21st, another email was sent just asking the lead bidder for a VIN number and a license plate number and the business name, and also that we would need a copy of a certificate of insurance and a check. And on December 21st, our lead bidder emailed saying that he wouldn't have the VIN number as the unit was being built from scratch to specifications. He did give the business name at this point. It was Jukebox Diner. He could not get the certificate of insurance as the unit was being built, and he was happy to give information as soon as it arrives. So there was no insurance on the VIN-less unit at that point in time. So we continue to work on that issue. On December 28th, there was another reiteration about the unit being built from scratch. It was anticipated that it would be at the proponent's house the first week of February, and at that point, we informed that we wouldn't have any agreement until that was actually in place and was done. So in the meantime, a check was dropped off for $4,000, and then later on February 14th, we got an update that the diner was physically in the state, and it was off to what's called the wrap guy to wrap the unit. And there was an insurance that was coming to the town from somebody in Northampton. And we were told once the COI is here, we'll bring a copy along with the VIN. So the proponent was going to do that. The target at that point was early April, and once the wrap and lighting is done, they'll be setting up their inspection with our health department for final inspection. So after that, on February 14th, we followed up again on the certificate of insurance and liability on what was needed, and also sent, per the agreement, we needed the certificate of insurance, and we did get, we put that word out again to the proponent that was the successful bidder on February 14th. And then on March 19th, we got, fast forward a month, and we got pictures of the trailer that was going to be put in the spot. And then on March 20th, there was the article in Seacoast Online that talked about the diner, the jukebox diner that was coming to the town. And then since that time, we have been working with the bidder on finalizing things, and that's where we stood as of about 3-4 days ago. And at that point, the lead bidder decided to withdraw their bid. So that has happened. They came into the town and decided that that wasn't something they wanted to do. And so we refunded the check today for that. So that's where we stand.
How many bids were there?
2.
There were 2 bids?
Yes.
And when was the second bidder notified that they did not receive the bid?
On December 5th.
On December 5th?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. The Select Board has delegated this bid process to the town manager's office, but obviously the buck stops with us. I have a couple of concerns. The first of which is, and I guess it goes back to, our imperfect language from 3 years ago, but I want to read the first paragraph of the RFP. The Town of Exeter requests written bid proposals for the opportunity to enter into a license agreement with the Town of Exeter for vending from a mobile vending unit in the downtown area of Exeter. The Town of Exeter has identified one municipal parking location within the downtown from which it will permit vending from a mobile vending unit. The vendor submitting the best qualified bid proposal will be forwarded for department approvals, then submitted to the Select Board for approval. Upon approval, vendor has 10 days to return signed license agreement to the town manager's office. Failure to do so may result in the town proceeding to the next best qualified bid proposal. So much like we've done with other town properties, the Select Board has delegated this permitting process to the town manager. I'm stuck on the vendor submitting the best qualified bid, and that word qualified is just jumping at me as I listen to the timeline, because I guess it's a pretty subjective word. When I think of a qualified bid, I think of, and I'm going to look to you, Mr. Bisson, when you get a permit, we've got some we're going to talk about later. When we get a permit, it's pretty much a done deal. We know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. And we have certificates of insurance, and we have everything lined up, and you don't bring it to the board until, or you don't approve it yourself. There are some you have to bring to the board if there's alcohol involved or other, but you don't approve anything until everything's been done. And same is true as Swayze Parkway. If there's going to be an event, we went through that with COVID, and they had to do maps, and they had to do all of this stuff. So I guess I look at that word qualified. To me, if somebody's bidding on a parking space to conduct business with a business model that consists of a conception, I'm sorry, I just don't think that's qualified. And I'll stop there for now, but other comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. So it says submitted to the select board for approval. That hadn't happened yet because you were still working.
Still working through the process.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's what I assumed, but I wanted to confirm that. And once you had worked through it, you were going to bring it to us, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please.
It might be a little lengthy. I have some questions and just so going through this weekend, I wasn't on the board before. I still am part of this board now, so take responsibility. I think part of the process was the process wasn't started early enough. I went through, made notes to myself, but I think maybe we need to start this process a little bit earlier because it should be in place by the first of the year, not in March or April. So this process was started on a Friday of Thanksgiving weekend. It was advertised on November 24th. By the following Tuesday, the two bids that we received seemed to be open, and please correct me if I've got my timeline wrong. And it was opened on December 1st. By December 5th, an award was made and a denial was made. I understand the fire department had not reviewed anything as far as the propane. And we don't have language. That's something we have to talk about, adding stuff like that. But there were a number of things I was concerned about. One application had specific work time to be open and closed. The other one gave suggested or certain dates and times, days and times, was subject to change. So I think that's something that we might want to look at a little bit more in the future. So we're now in March. The newspaper alerted me, I think, along with the rest of us. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I'm assuming that this was a problem. I really don't think that we don't want to learn about things from the paper or social media, for that matter. I'm a little concerned on the size of the truck and that it was going to be 18 feet long and you said 19-foot parking spot?
19.6.
Right. That means, and it's a trailer, so it would have had to have been dropped off and picked up there in that intersection. That's a concern of mine. And I will leave it at that because I agree with what the chair has said. But did the bidder happen to say the reason why they withdrew it? Because I really want to get everything on the table so we can move forward.
I think they just felt, based upon the entire process, not the entire process with the town, but everything that had happened surrounding the process, that it was in their interest to withdraw. I will say that they are also working with us on an alternate spot. So they have committed to doing that and continuing to work with the town. They are interested in doing business in the town of Exeter. Good. And they stated as much today to me. And the assistant town manager was there as well. So we are working with them to find them an alternate space. And they seem happy about that. And we will continue. We've committed to doing that, and we'll continue to commit to do that.
Okay. So I'll just end with that. I just think we need to tighten up the process a little bit and fine tune that and avoid this from happening again in the future, hopefully. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Selectwoman Gilman.
I'm trying to find where I just circled things. My concern was that about the insurance and that we had to ask for proof of insurance. That should be part of the permit. And I'm trying to find where it is in here, and it's more like it's just all state laws or something. And then to ask for the entity name as opposed to the person applying, how do you skip that?
So it's under number 11 in the license agreement. It basically says that the licensee agrees to submit a certificate of insurance and endorsement provisions with completed application maintaining general liability, bodily injury, property damage of $1 million per occurrence, $2 million in the aggregate.
And we ask everybody that permits any town property for certificates of insurance.
Correct.
But didn't the town manager say that hadn't been provided?
Not at this point in time, we had not received it.
So I would consider that not a complete application.
Okay.
You have 8024.
Hi.
Melissa Roy, Assistant Town Manager. Just to let you guys know, any permitting process that we have, after it is approved, they are allowed to give us their insurance. So I just want to make sure that it is the same process with everybody else. They're not allowed to hold the event if they can't provide it in a certain amount of time, right, Greg? But just to keep the playing field even.
But it's usually right after the fact, right?
It can be. Yep. Some people will wait.
I will confirm that.
Yeah, some people will wait because if they don't get the permit, so we have what's called people will often get a one-time insurance, like a tulip policy, and they don't want to pay for that if their approval for the event is denied. So that is part of the process, just to let.
Thank you for
You're
clarifying.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to speak from my experience as a business, there have been times when we've been late breaking with the COI, but the permit has been pulled and approved, so
So it's not on,
it's not uncommon, yeah. The sequence of events is not rigorous, typically. So
thank
that's
you.
not out of the ordinary.
yeah, maybe that's something that needs to be clarified in the ordinance.
Did you have anything else?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll come back. Selectwoman Cowan?
I would like to reserve some time at the end because I'm interested in hearing from our constituents and folks in the audience.
So before we do that, I'd just like to add, we want to facilitate the process for folks who want to do business here in Exeter. And one of the many things I'm most proud of in our community is that we do support our local businesses. I also want to, we have the responsibility to make sure that our citizens are safe and that if we're setting up places of business that folks who frequent, patronize the businesses are kept safe. So I'm a little bothered by how we interpreted the bid as being qualified when there were questions about the size, the structure, the yet-to-be-built structure, and the fact that, Mr. Dean, if I'm misspeaking, please correct me, but I'm of the understanding that this had not even gone through all of the departments that it needed to go through.
The structure is built.
Fire, did fire?
It has not gone through, it was literally days from going through that process,
But
So-
in
but had
March,
not.
not in December.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, I'm back to the qualified word in this, and that if we have, in this case, there were two bidders, but if we have multiple bidders and, there's the bidder in this case with the highest bid isn't ready to go as of 1/1, I'm not so sure that that's qualified. Now, a couple weeks, but we're 1 quarter into the year. And this was just getting ready for prime time, I guess, on their end, but still hadn't gone through all of the due diligence that needed to go through in town, correct?
One thing that and I would agree that it had not gone through all the department approvals. I think one of the observations I would make is looking at our regulations and looking at what we require as part of our bid process. We probably want to put a marker down on that particular issue because it's not, that is one of the gaps that we found in the process, that it doesn't address a differentiation between a unit that is already built and ready to go and in the pipeline and one that may, we get a facsimile of, and that is to be built as part of the process. And a lot of our a lot of our regulations are, as the assistant town manager pointed out, are predicated upon we will supply you as part of the process as it unfolds, as it goes along. But that is something we can tighten up, and I think based upon our internal conversations, I think we're ready to do that. We're committed to do that. If that's amenable to the board, if you think that that's a direction we need to go.
I think we need to take a look, not tonight, but we need to take a look at this entire process and improve upon it. I mean, again, I harken back, it was 3 years ago, still during the pandemic, and
Didn't really tried it out.
we were, we were being asked to very aggressively come up with something so that we could put this in place for the 3 spots that were back there as well as the premium spot here. And thank you for the clarification on the COI, and I can understand that, but I think that to not have something built after you've received the bid is a little bit different.
Okay.
You indicated that the bidder, I'm sorry, Selectman Blum.
No, I just wanted to say we didn't have that discussion back in 2021 because we didn't anticipate somebody not having something ready to go.
Right.
So that's part of our review of this.
Very good point.
Yeah. And also, to your point about the time of, the calendar year, we had started defining a period of time that would only be 6 months or so, but vendors have outside of that window that they want to sell things, so we just did a full year and let them decide when they want to sell.
You mean for the smart, yeah, so, but it says this, they're renting that space for a year, calendar year.
Whether they
So
use
my
it or-
only point is that maybe if we started the process in October.
To be
that-
ready for that.
They own that space for a year.
Yep.
Whether they
Yeah.
use it for the whole year, it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
my concern, so.
Different dates on there then.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dean, you indicated that the approved bidder has withdrawn the bid.
That's right.
Okay. Have we extended an invitation to the other bidder to have that space at a pro rata?
Not as of yet.
Okay. That might be a nice idea.
I would recommend that.
Yes, I would also recommend that.
And if the board will indulge me, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Please just come to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mary Teagle, 9 Union, here in Exeter. This has been an interesting presentation and following it. As a planner and a designer, a person who's been involved in setting up temporary marketplaces, I think it might be helpful to pull your problem, and I don't mean like problem, something's wrong, that's a design problem, the physical components, just as if someone were applying for a building permit. They have to be so many feet from, it can only be so tall, electrical, I think what I'm trying to talk about. So I think, especially if there's going to be another spot offered, and I know there was a bicycle pop-up over by Dodge's Agway, and the whole Facebook thing, people were tossing out ideas for other places. So I really think that having some architectural programmatic criteria that's fairly objective, if it's done on the fly, you're at risk for arbitrary and capricious judgments on a potential applicant. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if it's explicit, how big, and so on and so forth, like that's a separate issue. And that can be overlaid at any point. Any applicant can look at that and go, I qualify, or I don't, that's too tall, or whatever. And then the transactional parts, the insurance, I'm not qualified to speak on that, but just as a citizen, I trust that you'll work something out that's equitable and workable. So, thanks.
Thank you for your comments and suggestions. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Mark Bessler, 8 Haven Lane. I have 3 points, 2 of which were addressed in some of the comments here. For clarification, did I hear that as far as the folks sitting in front of the table here know that the fire chief was not looped in on this to date? Somebody said that. I want to
Mr. Dean.
clarify on that.
Fire department, that's right.
Okay.
Not at this point.
So my first concern is that propane is a very highly state, local, and federally regulated hazardous material. As a layperson, it would seem that the first person you check with is the fire department for propane in the middle of a highly congested downtown area 2 feet from a crosswalk. That would be my thought, and I don't know, I'm not going to make any assumptions. Secondly, there is a national fire code, which the state of New Hampshire Fire Marshals has adopted, that requires a 10-foot clearance from any mobile vending unit using propane. So therefore, the town has awarded a permit to a business that can't legally use the spot that they've awarded it to. I don't know if there are waivers process in place that could waive that 10 feet requirement, but it is listed in NFPA 50.7. I know how to use Google really well, and I look things. So that's a question that I think should be addressed at some point, whether it's here or through the planning board. Secondly, I have had a commercial driver's license for over 30 years. About half that time I sat behind a desk right up the street here, and I'm back to driving again, and I have a Class B driver's license. I don't drive big rigs, but large rigs. The dimensions of the truck that you stated are only the dimensions of the box itself, not the entire trailer. Based on the photos that the owners of the proposed cafe truck posted, there's approximately somewhere between 3 to 4 feet of tongue after the box. That includes storage area for the 100-pound cylinders of propane, as well as the tongue to draw. So you're really looking at 22 feet. My question is, the language of the RFP, or not within the RFP, but of the zoning, I'm assuming, does it state that your vehicle must fit within that parking space? You touched a little bit on if it's going to go beyond, we put cones and safety measures out, but I do remember during COVID that there was some concern about size of a vehicle parked in that spot. This vehicle seems to be larger than the original one that was complained about, and I don't know if there's any legal authority in town to say, well, it's there. Not just the length, but the current photos of this truck that has been built, the eye line with the vent on top is much taller than the original truck that was complained about size. So that seems that the town was tone deaf in complaints about size in issuing this permit, along with, I understand the insurance piece that, I think the Chili Festival does that. They get the insurance that weekend for what they need to do on the insurance piece, but everything else, including state permitting. And then finally, logistically, the others, moving forward from here, the other spots up at Town Commons are right over here. Typical width of a food truck is 7 feet. Typical parking spot is about 7.5 to 8 feet. Logistically, you can't put multiple food trucks next to each other in parking spots, even if they don't have propane, because everybody would be ordering within about 1.5 feet of distance behind the back of another truck. So it seems that there is definitely room to learn from the current experience and move forward with a more refined process to make sure that permitting is in place or well along the way. And just a personal comment, I feel that it is unfortunate that both businesses, at least in the social media, which you have no control over, have suffered reputational damage as a result of what appears to be a not very well vetted and thorough process by the town. And so I just feel bad for both business owners in that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
So, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
could.
please.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to the propane issue. In talking with the vendor today, with the proponent for the jukebox diner, one of the issues that was brought up was supply of propane or an alternative fuel source. And he was talking to me about inverted generators. So again, I'm not a food truck expert. That is something that he brought up. So I think I don't want to presuppose what the final outcome was on that as far as what kind of fuel source was going to be used for the truck. And to the other points, I just wanted to say that they're well taken, and we are learning, and we will continue to do so through the process and try to refine the regulations that are part of this process and part of the bidding.
I understand that, but to the point I made earlier and to the gentleman's point just now, I'm not a propane expert, but he is.
Yeah,
No, not you, him.
yeah.
Since the fire department hasn't weighed in yet, maybe they'd like to now.
Justin, before you do, could you just repeat the alternative method that you just said?
Inverter generator?
Inverter generator.
Something right here.
As a generator. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. No, there would be no waiver for 10-foot rules. That's something that we do. The town of Exeter we adopt the most recent version of NFPA 1, which is the National Fire Code, and NFP 101, which is the Life Safety Code. We're on the 2018 version. I saw Mr. Mullins online, what he provided, though not technically adopted by the state of New Hampshire as of yet, because that is a very newer version. All the information is still accurate. So if you had a chance to take a look at that flyer, it is very straightforward. And I beg anybody who ever wants to do business in Exeter to please do your due diligence. Come to the fire department, come where the health officer's with us, come ask the health officer. I stood up here a couple years ago with somebody who was touting a new school in town, and I tried to get ahead of that, and we know how that ended. So I'd prefer people come and ask questions ahead of time. We would never be okay with propane downtown within a foot or two of a car parked next to you. We're willing to work with everybody, and hopefully there's a positive outcome for all parties, but at this time, the fire code is pretty clear, and it's a 10-foot distance from anything combustible, not just vehicles.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Thank you, by the way. I just have a few comments. First of all, I want to emphasize this was never approved. It only gets approved when this comes to the select board per the RFP ordinance. So they were well on their way to, but it was never approved. So I want to emphasize that. You were working with the vendor.
Yes, we had a high bidder that we notified of a high bid that was accepted by the town.
So that's the first point I'd like to make. And I'd like to make the point that this should come to the select board earlier in the process, not when it's done. You've got 5 individuals here who have pretty good political antenna, and I would urge you to bring it to us sooner in the future. And then finally, I think what we did out in there is specifically built for what Clyde's Cupcakes does. And I don't know if they're packaged foods, they're not preparing foods on site, they're preparing it off site and selling for.
In 2020.
Just so folks can hear you.
Okay. Clyde Bullen for Clyde's Cupcakes. Okay. In 2020, when we had COVID, we had a discussion with Darren and all that. I didn't want it to be loved that it was just going to be Clyde's. To be established, it could be a coffee, it could be ice cream, because when we started this in 2019 with the Exeter's hawkers and peddlers, we followed that path where it was either an ice cream truck or anybody who was mobile doing something following the policy. And as I followed the policy, I invested in a truck that has an inverter and gas to follow the guidelines and established that an inverter costs $40,000 to put into a truck. So, you made a recommendation and I followed it. But not to get sidetracked. But let's discuss this bid. Just, Mr. Dean made some comments. Let's make sure you understand, when that bid was submitted, it requested a photo of what was going there. Why I made a statement was when I saw the photo of a truck that had a big propane cylinder on it, and being a vendor that does over 300 events a year and understand rules and regulations, there's no way that truck was getting approved, period, in the state of New Hampshire or anywhere, due to the fact that it had a propane tank on it and it was going to be by a parking spot. So that's why it wasn't that I lost anything, it's just the fact I lost to something that there was no way it could have got approved, period. The bid required to put a photo on it. Once you saw the photo, it had a propane, case closed. They couldn't win, you couldn't go to the next step. So that was my frustrations with the situation. The second frustration is in 2013, my first truck, and before he had his job, his predecessor told me, Clyde, that truck's way too big. You can't have it down here. So I replaced that truck. So it was just, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm investing in doing, and to be sideswiped or whatever. And the last thing I want to say, yeah, I'm an emotional cat, but the last thing I want to say is that, yes, you're having this and this and this. I've been doing this 14 years. I'm upset as much as you to see this in the paper. The guy called me again. There's 3 articles ruining my brand that I worked so hard on. It's not necessary. Then the instant messaging that's coming to my family, my wife can't even get out. I can't even tell you. We've turned something that is simple as, yes, I knew in December I didn't want. Fine. But we've turned this into a whole realm which wasn't necessary. And if you said, Clyde, you didn't win because dollar, fine. But me personally, it shouldn't have gone to picture requirements and all of that. That's my situation. It's,
I think this is, for me, thank you very much for your, appearing here and your testimony and all you've done to help us through this process. And he brings up a really good point, and I don't know anything about propane. This is not my world. I don't spend any time in this. But I do really worry if we're going, and I know you say it's not approved, but the process, ostensibly it was. You submitted the winning bid. You were on your way to outfitting something that would have never been approved anyway. And my worry is, we are not in the process. I don't want to be in the process. I don't think it's appropriate for us to be sort of nitpicking and doing all of these things. But the appropriate people need to be in the process. And if that bid had been shown to Justin or anybody at the fire department, it would have been like, this bid is not acceptable. And so we would have not been in this position at all. And so I think one of the things that is going to be instructive in coming out of this process, and I do hope that you extend the offer, but I think that is going to really help us thoughtfully think through in what areas of town we can accommodate what kinds of businesses. And I think and then also, I do not want the town to be in the business of saying, of having people who, it is not their job to know the propane regulations. It is not appropriate. It is not appropriate for us to expect them to, but we have to direct applicants to the right people who can easily say, this is not an appropriate bid. We could never put this here. Here's the reason. Here's a 2-sentence reason why, and then we avoid this whole thing. And so that's the thing that I think we really need to come to. And I really have clarity about that tonight.
One of the diligence items that I will mention about the propane issue is that it is not in our specifications. So when we go back and we look at specifications for that particular area, that is something that we should focus on, and I've accepted that, and we've had conversations about that.
But Mr. Dean, with all due respect, that aside, I mean, whether propane or not, it's March 25th on a bid that was accepted on December 5th, and the fire department never saw it. That's my, I mean, I agree with everything that you said, sir, and I agree, Clyde, with you, but my trouble is that, we're 4 months later and the fire department hasn't seen it.
Yeah, and
Propane or no propane, that, to me, that's,
understood. And again, that's based on the fact that the unit wasn't fully constructed and ready to be inspected by the fire department. But your point's
Yeah.
taken, Mr. Chair. Understood.
So can I just add to that? We have no control over what people do on social media. And then the newspaper took this and ran with it, and it really got wings of its own.
And
So-
they're running with it again, because they called me before I came out here. And it's not, it's. I
That
didn't
first
sign up
article
for-
was based on people's posts, I'm
right.
gathering, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we are going to get this fixed, and sorry it has affected your business, but let's see what we can do to make this
Right.
just get better.
I actually have a question real quick. Is there any kind of association of food vendors or loose group, or is it just I know you from the last place I was?
No, New England has two groups and associations, and then, and also, I own 3 food trucks. I'm licensed in Maine, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut. So, and I do over 300 events a year. So I understand the paperwork and all. That's why I thought I thought you had the information when in 2021, Darren came out and reached out to me and I gave the information. I also informed Darren that Lexi's in town owns a food truck, Yoba's owns a food truck, to pool the resources of fellow food truckers who own trucks in Exeter to make this give you guys the knowledge so you can make sure the bid is correct and all of that. And that's what I thought, period, that when I lost, I assume I lost to a coffee guy, and I didn't care, but,
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
because I did
it's
wonder.
just, and I understand we did this during COVID and Zooming and all that,
Well,
it was a rush job and all that, but still, rules and,
Well, the reason I asked is because we kind of made it up, and we followed, I think we followed Portsmouth's guidelines, because they have a couple of spaces there.
We did.
But we didn't go beyond that.
Right.
So that's what, when we review this and try to tighten it up or make it user-friendly,
right. Well,
that we need to look at others.
Mr. Dean said, clearly if there's a box that said, please check this if you have propane, that application should go in the trash,
Right.
or it should say, well, this is the second location or the third location, because, I'm not going to be as clear as the chief, but the bottom line, a propane truck, just YouTube, it's a bomb on wheels. I don't mess with it, but you're not going to put a propane truck next to a car. It's not going to happen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chartrand?
I was just trying to finish my last point here. It's clear that Mr. Bollins has invested a significant amount of time in developing this particular space. And I don't know if it's appropriate in an RFP process, but if we could give him, and I'm spitballing here, which is probably never a good thing to do, but if we could give him some type of pioneer status to match future bids, and maybe that's not allowed under the law, but I think that might be appropriate. That particular space was really developed with the type of business that he runs in mind, and as we've discovered through this process tonight, to take bids from any and all, it's just not the right. It's not the right thing. That's such a specific space. and he's doing such a specific thing there. I'm just thinking out loud, and as I said, I'm spitballing, but yeah, if we could give him some type of status as a pioneer there, that would be really good, I think.
Sir, you had a point.
Thank you for indulging me again. Just two very quick points. One, it actually is the business owner's responsibility to understand, because that is a licensing and certification by at least the state, so they would be aware of that. But going to the RFP, I believe it's the bottom of page 1, and we've touched a little bit on this, where you don't necessarily need to have all the permits in place. I can't speak for anything in this situation, so let's move forward from this. I would hopeful that among the many considerations on how we improve the process, that we identify as a town which permits, licenses are essential to begin with, where others can be worked on along the way. The insurance issue, if the vehicle's being built and there's a contract, great. But there's that. So there is responsibility on both sides, and perhaps the issue was not known at the time of permitting, and because of that wording in the RFP, it came up as a surprise later on and come through. So thank you again for.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I just respond to that too? This is also regarding the process we went through in 2021, which clearly as the chair said, we need to review. The spaces out in Townhouse Common, that the issue of how close together they were came up, and that's why we reserve spaces so they would be horizontal and further enough away. Yep. But it takes more spaces away from the public parking, but you have one or the other, right? And they weren't nobody was using it for full time, and that's why we have them put out the cones on the days they're going to use it. So,
sir, please.
David Kovar, Exeter. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who showed up, and particularly to you all for showing up. I wish it had not come to you having to speak up publicly. That was very difficult for you, and it has consequences, but it also has benefits, and I really appreciate you speaking up both there and then coming here, because first of all, being able to have a personal connection, or at least somewhat personal connection, is very helpful, but second of all, hearing you engage in discussion with the other people who are involved really helps the public understand more about what's going on. So kudos to everybody involved in the conversation, and I mean everybody. You've touched on all the important points, I think, particularly qualified is incredible. I was trying to answer some of the questions on Facebook, and I realized I didn't know what exactly was in the RFP or in the town food permit application, so I sat down and read it all. And the sort of concerns about whether some favoritism did occur, I could clearly see how that could be perceived based on words such as qualified. I have no idea what qualified means. It's a very subjective term. I do a lot of work with the Defense Department, and their rules and regulations, what you have to do, runs like dozens of pages. It's a little bit overkill, but the fact of the matter is when you've got all that stuff specified up front, I know whether I should submit an application or not. And to your point, if it had said you cannot put any sort of propane or other flammables or whatever the restriction is in this parking space in the application, the other person would never have applied. So I think you're on the right track on that. I'd be very careful about, I understand exactly where you're coming from, and you've invested a lot in creating that space. You've created the value of that space, because no one else, it's a parking space. And no one else took the risk of saying, hey, I want to put a truck here. And so he has done a lot to demonstrate the value of that space to a lot of other people. I think there are other ways of rewarding that investment, such as making sure you've got a transparent and fair process. My concern is being perceived as having some sort of favoritism towards an established vendor makes it hard for other people to come in and be innovators.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so yeah, and again, just thank you to everybody involved in the process.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Actually, Paul Royal, 3 Pumpkin Circle. I actually came here prepared to say a couple of things that I don't even think I'm going to touch on tonight. On one side of the room, we have the hardest working guy in the cupcake business. First time I've actually seen him face to face. This reminds me of my dog.
Uh-oh.
He's a good dog. He has a big heart, and he wants to do the right thing. But he's 80 pounds, and he's extremely strong, and we don't want to disrespect the dog, so we describe him as being a lot. That dog is a lot, and there is a lot here. First thing, I don't think I need to remind you, but I'm going to say it out loud. You actually do control social media to a point. So when things get out ahead of you, and when you don't have a clear process, that's when social media takes over, and it gets out of control, and it gets out of control quick. I used to come to these meetings all the time, and then COVID hit. And the price you pay for not showing up at meetings and not liking Zoom, and being my age and really not liking Zoom, is that things happen, although you would have liked to be involved. You aren't, and you're not speaking. I'm not in love with the food truck downtown, but I appreciate what you've built. I don't love the aesthetic of any food truck or any truck parked in the middle of downtown, whether they're selling anything or not. But again, I appreciate what you've done, and you've created something there. And I respect that. But as a citizen of the town, when I see that food truck and I see little kids around, I think, man, if a lawyer got a hold of this and somebody got hurt, and they came to the select board and the town manager and said, what were you thinking when you put a truck in the middle of the street? It'd be expensive to defend yourself. And that's why I regret not being around, because I would have spoken against it. Again, I respect what you've done, and I see that people are careful out there and nobody's been hurt. But there's a lot. To get one food truck or 3 food trucks or 4 food trucks, you're basically, I almost want to say, it'd be kind of cool if we could grandfather Clyde in when he's done. We're done. Because there's so many rules and things to think of in advance with doing something like this. I got to ask, what's the cost-benefit analysis of doing more of this and creating these giant tasks? When I think of how hard Greg probably worked to get, the playground going, it almost seems like that would be simple compared to what you've got to think about to put a business in the middle of downtown and deal with the repercussions of a bidding process and who's qualified and who's not qualified. And when I saw that truck was coming in, I got to say, my first 2 thoughts were, holy cow, that thing is bright against the backdrop of our beautiful brick and white painted historic buildings, which that's why people come to Exeter. They come to rub elbows with the past and see what a great town we have and go to quaint places like the bookstore. And now to grab a cupcake. And again, I got nothing against that. So that's all good. But it's a lot of good, but a lot of problems. So back to that truck, I saw it, and I'm thinking, music too? How loud? Is that going to take over downtown? Or am I just too old? Because when they do the Christmas thing downtown, I'm like, can you turn that down a little bit? It's possible I'm just old. But those are things you got to think about. Qualified. Suppose somebody wants to put a massage table inside of a truck and some sexy Romanesque pictures on the outside. Is that qualified or not? Who gets upset? Whose morals? Whose judgment? Suppose you don't like the color pink. Suppose you don't. And Clyde could change that color anytime he wants to chartreuse. and maybe everybody hates chartreuse. The point is, there's just so much to think about. I think there's this cost benefit. Here would be my votes. Let Clyde do his thing. Let him continue to be successful. And when he is done and retired and living in the Caribbean somewhere, drinking Mai Tais at age 87, enjoying the fruits of his selling cupcakes, Exeter's done with this. That would be the way I would go. And I'll probably get crap on social media tomorrow because that's the world we live in. Don't let it be you again. Everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Royal.
Okay. Let's keep this 100. And let's make sure you understand a couple of things, okay? I don't have to do what I do. I do it because I love it, okay? Downtown Exeter is not making me rich. My wife enjoys interacting with people and that. The main reason I go downtown is so that the young of Exeter can see that there's a different person. Because some people in this town probably has never seen a black person before. So I go down so I can interact with the kids. I design stickers for the kids. I make sure I get out the truck, interact with them. I'm beloved, but it's so that they can see that there's something different. That's one thing. The other thing, I can't hustle downtown Exeter with having $2 million insurance. I have insurance. So God forbid something happens, I'm not just plopped down there without insurance. We make sure, the police chief could tell you, I've lost numerous cones because I love pink and I put cones on both sides and this side, custom made. I've gone through 6 of them. People have still, but I make sure I'm not just out there trying to just, I'm a pastry chef. I love what I do, but I also trying to bring a benefit to the town I live in. I live here. I've been here. That's my daughter there, if you didn't know. I've been here 17 years or something. It's not, I enjoy, I'm out there. Yes, I built something out there because I wanted to in the town that I lived in and to interact with the kids in the town that have not seen me and to let them know me is successful and could do something and I enjoy it. That's it. But we shouldn't go down and we shouldn't, I'm not going to bring up social media but I'm getting trounced on there, okay? My wife is getting called names, blasey. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for Article 1. I didn't sign up for Article 2. And God forbid what's Article 3 going to be in. And I'm not responding in all of this. My business is going to take a hit from this. I went to the store today. Hey, Clyde, that's that angry guy. I didn't sign up for this. I put in a bid, I lost, and I took it in stride. But I saw that a picture of a truck didn't meet the requirements that I was held at, and I had the right to ask the town, hey, what's this? And that's it. I didn't say one thing about that wasn't the issue. I wanted to be compared apples to apples, and that's it. And that's all I'm going to say on this, man. But I believe no matter who's there, provide something to the community. We're out there if it wasn't me or somebody, we'll be out there on Saturday, Sunday, selling the community. We're not just out there, we interact just like any other business, letting everybody know what's going on, where to go. Hey, where's the academy? Or we're just not out there hustling and bouncing. I provide a service and fun to the community, which I've been providing cupcakes in this community I've been in business well over 14 years. And I haven't had a complaint. But I seem to always be fighting with you guys every 3 years for some reason without nothing to do with me. All I want to do is sell sweets and have fun. That's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other comments from the board?
I don't have.
Oh, we have we have a hand up on Zoom. And Christine, if you could just state your name and your address for the record, and we'd love to hear your comment. Christine, I'm not sure if you're muted. We can't hear you. Is it maybe Russ is
I got it.
here with us?
Yeah, she's unmuted. I'm not hearing anything.
She's unmuted, Nico. They're not hearing anything.
Christine, can you hear us?
Arg.
We're good.
Well, I suspect that this is not going to be the last time we talk about this, so there will be.
Yeah, she's not.
No, he
No.
said she's unmuted, so.
Christine?
It's muted there.
Yeah, there's nothing on this end. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to start in with what I was going to say, and then if Christine, we can hear her, I will yield. Before we move on, I wanted to say a couple of things. Mr. Royal, I want to agree with you in that we control social media, but I don't think we do because, and full disclosure, I don't go on social media much. That doesn't mean that my wife doesn't tell me when there are things blowing up, but as a rule, I don't go on, and I don't go on for a reason. Regardless of what we try to do as a town, and most recently we had our police public safety complex video, we've had a siphon video, we've had public meetings with Pickpocket Dam, Swayze Parkway, just 4 examples. Regardless of what we try to do, and we as a board are continuing to work on how we can improve our communication. It's an ongoing problem that we're trying to solve, and there's no easy fix because there's no one way that everybody gets their news, unfortunately, particularly in small town. But despite our efforts, my understanding is that social media still gets filled with inaccurate statements, and there's nothing that we can do about that. But what we can do is what we did tonight, and that is when it was brought to our attention Wednesday morning with the same newspaper article that you saw, we put it on the agenda. These are hard conversations to have, and I'm particularly thankful that you came in person. It's the last time it was on Zoom, and we don't want to fight with anybody. That's not why we're here. We're here to do what's best for our community, and it's so much easier face-to-face than it was 3 years ago. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in, sir. And Mary, I appreciate your thoughts, Mr. Royal's thoughts. So we can't control the social media, but we can control what we put on the agenda, and we try to be as transparent as we can. And when there's an issue, we bring it here. And that's why the biggest reason I don't go on social media for town-sponsored things, because when I walk through that doorway and I sit here, my name's Nico Papakostendis, but I'm on the select board. And what I think when I'm home and what I think when I'm driving here may not be how I end up deciding, because I want to listen to you, and I want to listen to you, and I want to listen to our experts. And, we're all human beings. If you go on social media enough, again, this isn't the time or the place for that, but so, we can't control that. We had a flaw in our process. And for that, I'm sorry to all parties, because this should have gone better. And we can fix that long term, and we can fix that short term. And the short-term fix is Mr. Dean's office contacting you tomorrow to offer you the space at a pro rata bid. The long-term is we're going to fix this. And so I'm sorry to anybody who was affected by this. I'm sorry that social media is what it is. But I'm thankful to at least the second newspaper article that I read on Friday, because that caught me up on what I was missing, and I thought it was fairly accurately reported. So thank you, Akil. So with that, any other comments or questions? We will be revisiting this through the year.
Yeah, that would be my only request, is to really revisit this whole process and get community input and practitioner input and, sort of design this process better, figure out what needs to happen on the front end before we're even approving permits, and decide, as a community, what we think the process should be and what kind of town we want to live in. And I know that there has been a lot of things, and for a communications person's heart, it's hard to hear. And I do think that we have to shine a light on some of these issues. And so, some of the things, I'm not a fan of the dialogue and the discourse that happens on social media, but I am a fan of local newspapers and shining a light on the issues that happen. And so my request from you, Russ, would be to, if there is something like this that happens earlier, I don't want to micromanage, but I also want to be informed and in the loop. And so I think that we are all caught off guard when there is an accusation of unfairness. And I think that this case is really true. And I think we need to take that seriously. I think we have a lot of learning to do and a lot of opportunity to really make this better. So I'll close there.
Mr. Royal.
I just want to qualify something I should have made clear. As long as I've been paying attention to the select board, the transparency that you folks all demonstrate and your volunteerism has only gotten better and better. And that's quite a few years. So what I meant by controlling social media is when you have a process that works and you follow that process, you are less apt to suffer the wrath of social media. So I did not mean that as a shortcoming. It's just an abject lesson in making sure that the ship is run tightly and that you remain transparent. And I think a lot of citizenry of Exeter is also grateful for that, and you probably don't hear it enough. I know I am.
Thank you, Mr. Royal. Mr. Chartrand.
I like the pink. The pink works for me. And I'm a downtown businessman. We need more color against the background of the white trim and the brick. That's my own personal opinion. Keep bringing the pink. That's it. That's all I got.
Town manager's office will contact you tomorrow. Great. Thank you.
And before we close, can I just make a suggestion? We don't have to decide this tonight, but to, one, have the fire department, the health person, and Russ sit down with our current draft and make some suggested changes to it, but to really start this process early, like October 1st, and make sure everything is in line before January 1st, not after. Just thoughts I had.
We can take this into goals and objectives in a few weeks, but I think that my expectation would be it would start with the town manager and assistant town manager, maybe during your leadership meetings every week. You've got the police, fire. You could bring in economic developer. I mean, you're expert.
Public Works.
Right.
You're experts. Public Works. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then bring us
A recommendation.
some suggestions.
Right.
Let's, because I believe this was, I believe the economic developer worked on a lot of this in conjunction with your office. But I'd like to have some of the other subject matter experts work alongside and bring recommendations to this board to go through with public comment, and let's improve.
Sounds good.
Especially for this specific spot. Such a...
Well, the other two spots have their challenges too. So.
Right. If we're going to use it's going to cover everybody.
And I would recommend reaching out to our vendors and asking them to put us in touch with other vendors so we can look at a good sample of applications.
So before we move on to the next discussion, I'd really like to give Christine one more try. Christine, can you hear us?
Do they have the phone number they're calling from?
No, it's a.
Oh, that's right. It's on.
Might
Yeah,
be,
it's
it
on.
might be a mic.
If she can't communicate this way, she could always send us an email
I
or.
was going to just say that.
Yeah,
You know,
sorry.
Christine, if we've got to move on, but we would love if you either want to send an email to us with your thoughts, or we are meeting next Monday. If you'd like to join us for public comment, we would really appreciate hearing what you have to say. Oh.
I don't think her hand is still up.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
I know, poor Christine.
Well, I do, hopefully,
to Don,
hopefully
too.
we get an email or she comes back next week. Mr. Dean, moving forward, we have the town voting results, which we would have liked to have heard last week, but
Yes.
still good news.
So
Thank you. Night.
So we had a very successful election, as many of you know. We had four bond issues pass. One was the police and fire substation project, which passed with 63.4% of the vote.
Thank you. Good night.
The School Street area design and reconstruction passed. The Webster Avenue pump station passed, and the surface water treatment plant design and engineering article passed. And those three articles, School Street through the surface water treatment plant, all passed with north of 70% of the vote. So it was a very successful vote. The town budget passed, 69.2% of the vote. The water budget and the sewer budget both passed, and with healthy amounts, 71.4% of the vote and 81.2% of the vote. Planet Playground, the purchase of Planet Playground is already in process, as we know, but the Planet Playground makeover passed with 79.8% of the vote in favor, so that was a very successful vote. The Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan for Water Street passed with over 86% of the vote. And then we had some customary articles. The Sick Leave Trust Fund passed 77%. The Parks Improvement Fund passed with 67% of the vote. And the Snow and Ice Deficit passed with 78.6% of the vote. Then we moved on to the appropriation for the ADA Fund. That passed with 66% of the vote. The appropriation to the Swayze Parkway Trust Fund passed with 85% of the vote. And then one article I know that people worked very hard on, which was the adopt the investment services for the trustees of trust funds. That passed 81.3% of the vote. And then the Solar Array Revolving Fund article also passed 80.7% of the vote. The Water Sewer Advisory Committee change passed with 80.8% of the vote. And the Heritage Commission passed with 82% of the vote for that change and reducing the number of committee members. And then the Rugg Property Citizens Petition passed with 86.7% of the vote, and that was actually the high vote getter of all of the articles on the warrant. And then the other citizens petition regarding Swayze Parkway failed with a 34.8% in favor and 65.2% against. So overall, a very successful night, and we're looking forward to implementing the town warrant. We should have a couple of these items on a future select board agenda, including the Webster Avenue pump station bid recommendation that's coming your way based upon the new money that was appropriated by the town.
Terrific. We didn't get an opportunity last week to thank the town moderator, the town clerk's office, all of our volunteers that worked at the polls, and thank the voters for showing up. This was a successful election, and once again, the voters came out and listened to the various projects and initiatives and had confidence in moving forward with them. So we appreciate them coming out to vote, and we are looking forward to beginning work on these projects.
Mr. Chair, if I might, there was, when Mr. Dean was giving the percentages of what votes passed, there was a piece of legislation through my committee that wanted to change the ones that require a 3/5 vote to a simple majority. And it failed on the argument that more people needed to have a say, that we were disenfranchising folks by just, needing the 51%. I don't know. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation, but there it is. That failed, so it remains the same.
Any other comments? Mr. Charter.
I want to highlight again, we had some Budget Recommendation Committee members being sworn in at the beginning of the meeting. I want to highlight again how important they are to the process of successful town election process. The work that those volunteers, citizen volunteers, do to vet the budgets and the various capital improvement plan items and the recommendations they put forward to the select board, which we are scrupulous about following because they do such a good job. I'm just very grateful for all the work they do. In particular, I'm grateful for what Chairman Kelly does shepherding the process. It's very intense in the fall, in late summer and fall, and it's really some of the most important work that happens in the town.
Well said.
So I'm just going to add a little bit more to what Dan said, because that's what I was going to say too. So we're on the same page. I just want to encourage everyone at home and here in the room to follow the budget process. It starts late September, and it ends typically for the Budget Recommendation Committee just before Thanksgiving. They vet every single line, every CIP item. You learn a lot, and it's really important. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make one thing, a request to think about anyway? We get in our packet what the town voted on. But the town also votes on the school districts. And I know they have their separate board and their separate budget recommendations, but people look at our packet. And people talk to us about their tax rate. And I want people to see, I would love people to see it all in one place, not just at the polls, to make their decision.
That's a very good suggestion.
The trustees, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I add one more suggestion? Is the write-ins. I did notice when I was going through the other towns in our regional voting that a lot of the towns are adding the write-in names and how many votes they get. So I would like to see if maybe our town clerk would consider adding that, the number of votes and then also the write-ins.
Okay.
I just think it would be important for the townspeople when they're writing in a vote to see that their write-in
was paid attention.
is publicized, so it's published. So thank you.
No, I just I just thought it would be nice to see the returns, on the, in one place.
Mr. Dean, maybe is that something we can slip in the packet for next Monday? Maybe under, doesn't have to be a discussion item, but correspondence.
Sure, we can do that.
Maybe you could repeat the one page that you did with the percentages and then put the schools. And I know the clerk is a little understaffed right now, but we can get those names when we can get them.
Yes.
We can ask them. Excuse me, the moderator must have them.
True. Reach out to Kate.
We'll make the request.
Okay.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I see that our Public Works Director, Mr. Cronin, has been waiting patiently to present the next discussion item. I'm hoping we can hear him okay.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
We can. Steve, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, tonight we're asking you to authorize a one-year contract extension with Bell and Flynn for paving services. They have reviewed their bid from last year and are able to hold their pricing steady for this year. Based on the market, we feel that this provides the town with the best value and would like to proceed with authorizing a contract for 2024.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Cronin?
No, I think that we have extended, or Mr. Bell has gotten the same price for at least 3 years.
Several years now.
Yeah.
I think so.
And
Several years, yes.
Appreciative of that.
I'm very appreciative of that, and that they're the comparison comes out in their favor and our favor.
Mr. Dean, procedurally, would you like all of the various prices for the respective items read into the motion?
Items 1 through 3, if you could.
Specifically?
Yes, that would be great.
If there are no other questions, then I would entertain a motion to authorize the renewal contract, paving contract to Bell and Flynn for paving services for the 2024 construction season as follows. Item number 1, bituminous concrete pavement machine method, $71.90 per ton for binder course, $72.90 per ton for surface course, $73.90 per ton for urban compact service course, $74.90 per ton for cul-de-sac street and leveling course. Item number 2, bituminous concrete pavement machine method, $140 per ton. And item number 3, bituminous concrete curb berm, $4.50 per linear foot. And to further authorize the town manager or his delegate to sign the appropriate contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Steve, thanks for hanging in with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bisson, boy, do I have some questions for you.
Hopefully I can answer them all.
I hope so.
All right, first, if I can entertain the board, I have actually a short video to give you a visual of what we are talking about. So if Exeter TV could gear it up. Very European. Don't need to see that part.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for entertaining this proposal. The Parks and Rec, as you know, has always struggled to complete the mowing tasks. One of the things I think in Keegan's report basically admitted that we are short 2 staff members. So we've devised an opportunity here. I was lucky enough to go to a conference last year that really opened my eyes with how the big wave of robotics automated mowers are sweeping the nation. In times when we were having a hard time finding bodies to fill the spots. But this is not something that's new. This is actually something that's been very in trend in Europe. For instance, in Sweden alone, there's over 35,000 robots in their towns doing all the mowing. Municipalities, universities, golf courses, and professional sports team have taken up this. There's a larger version of what you saw there at Fenway Park that mows every night. Harvard University, colleges have them now just to do the grounds. It's easy. They can do it at night. And there's benefits to it. And I'm going to go through the benefits quickly because I don't want to keep you here long. Requires less storage space. The photo in your packet does not give justice. In Europe, they've devised these little dog houses that they live in during the day. So they pull in there and they park and they charge up when they're not in use. But the compact size, it's easier to move around. These are stationary. They stay at the location, so it's not we have to move around a lot. There's no fuel to worry about. Less, the docking stations are smaller. Fewer maintenance tools are needed. It's really just a couple screws and everything. The robotic mowers assist in operations. The one nice thing is they can do things out or early evening or early morning in the middle of the night. They can do it quietly and efficiently, and I'll get into how that is going to be safe and not walk away. But really, it does free up, and we have a fleet mode, and that's where we're going with. We're recommending a Husqvarna that we can see it. We get real-time notifications on how much is done, how much is left on its charge, and everything. These all have GPS trackers, obviously, or else the RTK technology would not work. And there's also theft protection, and I'll get into a story about that. They mow efficiently. So as we encountered last year with the heavy rains, it was very difficult to keep up on our mowing. These can mow during the rain and the heaviest rain and still operate as normal because they're taking off micro fractions. They're not taking off large pieces of grass. When we mow, it's usually 2 to 3 times or 2 times a week at most. One is preferable for other locations, but sometimes last year it was hard to even get to those locations, especially the rec park and Brickyard, which is heavily used, and the grass grows very fast. Harmless to the environment. They run on electricity, obviously, rather than gasoline. They're not zero emissions because obviously there had been some emissions to go and manufacture them, so I can't say that. But to give you equivalent, when we run up one of our ride-on lawnmowers for 1 hour, it's the equivalent of driving a car 100 miles. So the carbon emissions of any ride-on lawnmower that we all have, it does put it out there. So there's no fluids to leak, no oils to leak at all. It's very beneficial to the grass, and kind of the microfraction actually goes back. If anyone that knows turf care, which unfortunately I'm a geek too, thatch does build up. You have to take out your thatch. This is kind of reduces the thatch. The little microfractions go back into the ground and it'd be absorbed as food. So it actually will help the organics in our turf. They're quiet. Last year we tested one on our soccer fields, and literally you could walk next to it and you didn't even know it was running. But here it is cutting them. They're no louder than a low hum of an air conditioner. So when you have it, especially with against the backdrop of 101 at the rec park, it's really undetectable. But it also is important to realize we can do this on off hours with that quietness. I ran it by Primex actually, and Primex is like, this is a brilliant idea. You're actually looking to do it when the parks are least active. So everyone knows when we're out there mowing, it's always a hazard. We always have to shut off the mowers or wait until someone passes. This eliminates all that, especially at the rec park, where in the summertime for the 8 weeks we have summer camp there, we have kids showing up at 7 a.m. So getting up there, or 7:30, getting up there and mowing before the kids get up there is always difficult. And so we always have to work around their schedule or shuffle them around. So that's another thing that's really great. When I said they have GPS, they also have built-in anti-theft features as audible alarm, a camera that will take a picture of you if you go up and try to mess with it, as well as a automatic shutdown. So even if you go and grab it, the blade shut down automatically, and that alarm goes off. And why I tell you this is last year, Michigan State had a autonomous robot, a Husqvarna. A gentleman walked off with it, took it to his house. Well, they couldn't deactivate the audible alarm. The police followed the GPS to this gentleman's house, could hear the alarm going off in the guy's car, got a search warrant, went in and found over $1 million worth of equipment stolen from Michigan State.
Wow.
So it broke something there that people don't know. And then the presentation I saw at the conference last year, they have over 400 municipalities in Illinois that are now using autonomous robots. And they've seen a dramatic drop in workers' comp claims because now you're not having someone on a mower that vibrates or moving parts. So it's less activity on there. Low maintenance, as I mentioned, long-term savings, and I'll go into it. But the long-term savings is now we're reducing our fuel cost. Yes, we're going to go slightly up on electricity, but not incredibly much, but less parts to buy. And these mowers have a long shelf life, 10 to 20 years, depending on how you maintain them. And that's the big thing. And then I broke it down in the cost savings. I'm focusing on Brickyard and the rec park because those are two parks that we do internally. So just off of their salaries alone, my two parks guys, to maintain those parks, that's 12 hours a week each. That's about $16,800 for just their salaries. That's $988.72 per acre to maintain. Going with the Husqvarna E-Post, you're talking now it's a $35,000 charge over 4 years. Financed at 0%, $8,856.18. That equates to a $520.90 per acre. So there's a substantial savings there. While we do the lease purchase, the blades are included, but down the line, the blades win it. You're talking about $25 per set. This is the same equivalent of buying blades for our bigger mowers. A new battery, which about 8 to 10 years we would need to replace, is about $250. You get a charge back because you can trade it in because of the lithium batteries. Why we are recommending Husqvarna is because they are the leading edge of automotive mowers in the world. They're the ones that started it. There are others that we actually did demo, but they're more time consuming, where one would be Nexmo, which we would go and actually drop off and then go pick back up. Again, now it's our guys' time that they have to go get the mowers, bring them back, store them, so that it's a little bit more. So the Husqvarna also is very territorial. So to get 3 bids, it was very difficult because honestly, Husqvarna wants you to buy local. So we did get 2 bids, 2 quotes, I should say. One from Automated Outdoor Solutions of New England and Dover, Mass., and one from right next door, Seacoast Power Equipment. One requires an hour and a half drive to get to, and one requires 15 minutes. Both have service departments, and there's a difference of $13 between the 2 bids. When we demoed this, we went to every park last year with the Husqvarna Northeast rep. And they went and they took out their satellite detector and identified 4 parks that actually this would work at. We've narrowed it down to 2 for now. And looking for some kind of endorsement by the select board to move forward. The rec advisory board, when talked about this, they voted unanimously to support this purchase. This would come out of the rec revolving fund for the next 4 years. But there's ways that we're going to recoup this cost. So I am open to questions, Mr. Chair.
How are you going to recoup the cost?
Field lining. One of the things we'll get to, and I'll show you that robot next, but the field lining robot, which I'll present, every sports team or sports organization in this town used one-person blind fields. Last year, when that one person just had medical issues and had to retire, we were stuck having to contract it out to someone with a tiny mobile robot. That tiny mobile robot, on average, cost anywhere from one time we had to move a field, cost us $900 to move it. This shifted over 20 feet. Typically, he would charge EYSA about $650 per lining, per field. So that adds up very quickly. So they utilize our fields, but we also have organizations that use athletic fields on the school property that is adjacent to some of our parks. The tiny mobile robot we can set up, program it in to go line the field, go do another activity. It will send us a text. We are completed our painting, or you need more paint. So these are all things to be efficient while making the parks into a more of a revenue generator as well, to help offset the cost of the mowers. But in our discussions, to get back to the mowers, our discussions with Russ and Melissa last year, I had actually came to the budget recommendation. I proposed a budget for a higher contracted services. And at the time, we had decided to put some of it in the rec revolving fund for this year to lessen the burden on the taxpayers. This is an opportunity not only to not burden the taxpayers, but also less than what we had agreed upon. It was about $11,000 that was going to go in the rec revolving fund for contracted services. This is slightly cheaper.
So the seven mowers,
yes,
are to cover which parks?
Recreation Park and Brickyard.
And you want to buy 7 without trying them out?
This is, yes.
So
I have
mowers
literally
in 4
tried them
years.
out. Yep, I've literally tried out just one, Mr. Chair, to do 2 of our soccer fields last year from beginning of October to early November. And one was able just to do the soccer fields, not everything, just the soccer fields perfectly. And I had a lot of EYSA folks come to me and say, these are the best conditions these fields have been in.
Any questions or comments?
This is a no-brainer for me.
I have a question.
Please.
Cost for wiring or putting in the charging, is that included somewhere?
So, yes, and there is some upfront charges, which I am proposing coming out of the Park Improvement Fund. We need to extend electrical at both parks, and that's about $15,000. So that there is an upfront cost.
Okay.
But these are not upfront costs that we wouldn't be planning to do in the future. For instance, at the Recreation Park, we're going to be extending it behind Field 2 and 3, which now allows us to use it more functional. We often struggle for any programming up there, so we have to run miles and miles of extension cords. But we also have a future thoughts of if we ever built a observation tower for games there, or if we ever wanted to put scoreboards, now we have electrical run right behind those 2. So 2 mowers would be stationed behind fields 1 and 2, and 2 stations would be behind 3. And there would be 4 at the rec park and 2 at Brickyard. And now I know I can do math, that's 6. We have 1 in case one of those breaks down, then we can clone it and it can go back in and continue to do all the mowing and needed. So we're thinking ahead of time to make sure, and then we can actually utilize that another place as well if we had to.
Yeah. Could I just want to follow up? Just out of curiosity, how heavy are these units? Robots?
30
whatever
pounds.
you want to call
35
30?
pounds.
So they're pretty light.
That's why we can do it during the rain, because now if you put a 500-pound mower that we drive on the fields now, it's just going to sink.
Yeah, thank you.
These can go on any time and not damage the field. Same with the tiny mobile robot, which I'll show you the video of. These are made to not damage the turf, but make it healthier or make it a little more efficient, which I don't know if Gabe wants to show the tiny mobile robot.
This is pretty powerful.
Sorry.
Can't see.
It is the most reliable, most robust robot we've ever launched.
Is that real speed?
No, it's not real speed. I'll give you time, so.
Many of our customers have asked us, can we paint their logos or can we give them a tool to paint their logos? The logo maker actually enables customers to upload a file of their own logo and paint it on their fields themselves.
So what this means is I can basically take the logo from my football team or my school or college, and I can copy paste it to my tablet, and that's it. I can paint it anywhere I want, any size I want.
enables field painters who have multiple fields that they need to paint, and it allows you to queue those up so you can paint field to field to field without stopping. And the only thing you need to stop and do occasionally is refill the paint. The tablet app will let you know when it's time to refill a robot with paint. So you can go be doing other things and know when it's time to come back and refill the paint.
All right, Julie, to get to your question, I think I mentioned it last time I was here. For our guys physically to lay out a soccer field, it takes 2 to 3 hours. We all did geometry, the 1, 2, 3 method to make sure everything is square. But imagine doing that over 11v11, which is 98 feet wide by 120 or 320 feet long. So, I mean, you're having very long, it takes 2 to 3 hours. And then you have to string it. And then when you string it, then you have to paint it, which takes another hour, hour and a half. So now you're talking about 4 hours to line one soccer field. This, it takes 15 minutes to set up with your GPS and 24 minutes to line. While, as he said, they're doing other tasks on the field. Weed trimming, trash, filling in divots, all these things that are we often struggle to get to. And now that we have to assume the responsibility of painting, because we have no other choice, or we're gonna spend more money per year contracting it out to someone, then we could actually be a cost recovery center for these for this maintenance operation. So I mean, as a win-win, I mean, we can do logos with the Pro X. Also, it can do parking spaces. So if you had an event on, let's say, Rains Farm, and you wanted to park, you can line it up and have it paint parking spaces. You can do vendor spaces for any kind of festivals. Graphics. I wish I had the picture, but I do not anymore. When he came for the demo, it was right around Halloween. I'm like, all right, show me a logo. He did a jack-o'-lantern within 10 minutes. So any kind of special event, we can actually paint logos. We can actually do the extra Parks and Rec logo. They said that's compatible. The fish is a little more detailed.
What about the Clyde's Cupcake logo? Just kidding.
So, I mean, there's a number of things we can do with the tiny mobile robot as well. And again, that's about $35. And the paint that we already purchased previously is good for like 3 to 4 years. And it's in our cold storage down in our basement. That will last us for 5 years, which is
longer than the lease.
Yeah, longer than the lease. So, I mean, we were not even going to have to purchase paint anytime soon with this. And again, on average, talking with them, I wouldn't want to gouge our local sports teams because all of them are on a budget. Just having them pay, for instance, for 11v11 or a lacrosse field, $300. We estimate we can bring $15,000 to $16,000 of revenue a year just painting these organizations' lines, while our guys do other things.
So that's why you're willing to put your revolving fund at risk here, because you're going to get the money back.
Correct.
Yeah, like I said, this is a no-brainer for me, the whole package.
And the reason I am asking for the additional funds, you guys approved fiber run at the rec pool. The same company that's going to be doing that conduit this in 2 weeks is available to run conduit at the other 2 locations, so they can run the conduit and then the electrician. Same time.
Okay.
So while they're there, mobilized with their ditch witch, which we don't want to tear up the fields, obviously, because softball and soccer are starting. So the ditch witch will leave a very thin line that you won't even be able to notice it was there. And both the tiny mobile robot and Seacoast Power will hands-on training. I mean, we've all been trained on it briefly in 1 or 2 days that we've demoed these. But I mean, the technology's there, and it's just going to free up time. I do know that I've talked to several vendors, and they're all struggling to find people to mow. So why not do someone that's not going to call in sick, can do it at night, can do it in the rain, and always be there.
So this is to eliminate your struggle finding additional help. This is not in lieu of jobs that we already have.
No, robots will never replace people.
Don't ever say never. Don't ever say never.
All right, Terminator might have foreshadowed something, but no. But no, we'll always need someone, Mr. Chair, to maintain said robots.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm glad you played the videos, because when I was reading this weekend, I was envisioning the robot that tried to tackle me as I tried to enter a major department store a month ago, and I'm just having flashbacks of that.
Oh, my.
And even if you look at the technology, and I know some of us have college-age kids, but for instance, Bentley College rolled out, they have autonomous robots that deliver food to dorms, because they don't have people to deliver food. So now, like, their food service is putting them in robots, and they're getting delivered to a dormitory. The kid scans their ID, and they get their food. So, I mean, the technology's there. And if the groundskeeper from Fenway Park is endorsing these, I'm pretty confident these are going to be a big step up for us. Will it totally relieve the pressure of our two guys? Absolutely not. But it's a step in the right direction to give them 24 hours back of their day to put on and fix some fence post, or there's a divot that they need to fix.
Start over. Is there any difference in cost whether you buy or at least 2 of these, or 7 or 9 or 10?
It's the acreage, Mr. Chair. So that's why asking for 7, because 4 for just the rec park.
No, it's back to my original question.
There's no
training
discount
or anything like that. I mean,
no
did
discount.
you want to start with one park and see if you like it or if it works? I mean, it's a major investment for 4 years.
We are very confident in this. Talking with our parks guys, that it's the technology is there.
I'm a big fan of pilots.
He's a smart aleck, but on this he's right.
And in the future, there's other robots, and I know Steve is probably not on the call anymore, but there's other opportunities to have other robots in other locations. The 2 other parks that really showed that good potential, or that they could do, is Gilman Park and Park Street. And then they didn't go by there, but they saw it on 101, the lagoons. We have a guy physically go out from the water department and mow around the lagoons, where if you had an automated robot that went around and mowed it every day, you'd never have anyone on those slopes, and they're made for the terrain like that.
Yeah. This is a thing. It's happening. It's coming. The fact that our Parks and Rec director is out in front of it is a good thing.
Well, listen, he didn't win that award last year.
There you go.
I'm a big fan of pilots. When you're investing in the unknown, start small, and
he's on the right track.
That's why, Mr. Chair, I'm asking for 2 parks, not 4.
I understand. I was thinking of 2 robots, not 7, but that's okay.
There'd be the 2 robots at. You got to also think of when the fields are going to be used. We still have to irrigate.
I understand.
So, and you get about an hour and a half, 2 hours charge before it has to go back, charge for 30 minutes, and then go back out and complete its task.
That was not my next question. Okay, thank you for that. I have just one thing too, Mr. Chair, if I could. So if the board approves this evening, I would ask that you keep track of, because you've given us projected savings, but to see actual savings, maybe to present it to the BRC, the Budget Recommendation Committee, when they do their initial meeting with you, and then it would be part of their packet, and then the board would be updated at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just a common thing, because as we look to evolve in maintaining all our green spaces, if this is a technology that we are very pleased with, which I'm 100% sure we will be, then it's just another step down the line where, again, it's not going to replace people, but because there's physical things that robots can't do, like replanting grass. And that's the nice thing here is, like, all right, for instance, we have a bald spot from soccer, and we want to keep mowing, but we don't want to mow in this 10 air. We put it as a keep out zone, and it won't mow over your new grass until you tell it to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I lied. Can I have one more?
Of course.
Did you talk to Mr. Cronin, about using one? Is that going to be
No, I haven't.
available,
I haven't talked
or-
to. No, I haven't talked to Steve because
Okay.
it's going to be. It's specifically for these two parks. The reference stations that we will be talking with the robots.
So if you add more down the road, that would be a possibility?
Yeah,
Is that what, okay.
That could be a possibility, but we need reference stations. There are other technologies out there that RTK that you can do right directly. The Nexmos, like I mentioned, they're much more expensive because it's all built into one. But that's why Husqvarna is the most affordable and the most reputable.
Okay, and the 15.8 is the electric part.
Yes.
So you have 3 motions here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
I'm done, thank you.
I'd just like to say, I'm a big fan of pilots. I'm reluctantly going to go along with your recommendation for 7. I would have liked it to have been less to start off, but I would strongly suggest that before you go before the BRC in the future and this board for future and additional robots, to Selectwoman Belandra's point, have your what it's saved us.
Sure.
Have all of that information.
I'll be happy to.
Because I don't know if I'll do 7 again. If you don't have that. If there are no other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to enter into a 4-year lease purchase for 7 Husqvarna 550 EPOS mowers, charging stands, and 4 reference stations through Seacoast Power Equipment for a total of $35,424.47, which is $8,856.12 per year, to be paid out of the Recreation Revolving Fund annually at 0% interest.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. I'd entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend no more than $15,800 from the Park Improvement Fund to contract with Days Landscaping and Maldini Electric, Inc. to extend electrical services at the Recreation Park and Brickyard Park.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And finally, I'd entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to enter into a 5-year purchase to acquire one, and this is what it's called, tiny mobile field lining robot for a total of $33,000, which is $6,600 per year, to be paid out of the Recreation Revolving Fund annually at 0% interest.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, forever after known as a TMFLR.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. So Greg, just one more thing, just make sure when you're keeping track of the actual cost, if there's any revenue, like you said, just
Absolutely.
please make sure that's in
Yes,
there.
and once we're set up, I'm working with Corey, because there's paperwork that needs to be signed for the financing part, but Corey Stevens, Finance Director, I want to invite you guys out to actually watch them in action and see like how meticulous it is. I mean, for those sports aficionados, we like stripes down our grass, and these make stripes. So,
Greg, I can speak from experience. Nobody lined a baseball field more crooked than I did. I look forward to the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last discussion item. Selectwoman Gilman and I volunteered to put together a draft for the what we call the Exeter Pairpoint Park Stakeholders Advisory Committee.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt?
Please.
I'd like to recuse myself from this matter, and I'd like to explain why I'm recusing myself, because there was a mention in the media about why I was recusing that was wrong.
Please.
The reason I'm recusing myself from all matters regarding this park is that my landlords at the bookstore donated the park, and it's inappropriate for me to judge this in any way. I've never hesitated to vote on things that are happening in the downtown. I don't own real estate in the downtown. My business is maybe tangentially impacted, but I feel comfortable voting on things that are happening in the downtown. I had a constituent ask me that question, and I wanted to make it clear why I was recusing. Again, my landlords donated this park land, and it's not appropriate for me to be on this. Thank you.
Fair enough, thank you. So it's been in our packet now for 2 tries, and everyone has had an opportunity to read it. We would welcome any comments or suggestions.
I only have one word.
Please.
Under committee goals,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. The third bullet point, all proposals, it says should, it should be shall.
Good catch. That's okay. It's a lovely ringtone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like your ringtone. And that was the only suggestion I have.
Selectwoman Cowan?
That looks good to me.
Okay. Mr. Dean, do we need a motion to accept the implementation of this committee or the charge, or how would you like that done?
I think a motion to adopt the charge as written with the changes that were proposed.
Okay, all right.
Is in order.
There are no further questions. I would entertain a motion
You
to.
wanna ask
Oh,
the
I'm
public?
sorry, go ahead.
You want to ask the public if they have any comments?
That is a good idea.
No.
This is the Pairpoint Park Committee that we were, this was our next step.
Committee charge.
Committee charge. As soon as we can make this motion and adopt this, then, Mr. Dean, hopefully your office will start getting
Interview candidates.
interview candidates and
Yes.
applications.
Yes.
And maybe we can start spreading the word through our different committees, through ourselves, recruit.
And we have applications already. We do have
Good.
some on file.
Without going through the whole thing, because it is in our packet, the committee would be comprised of 9 appointed volunteers, no term limits, one of whom would be a representative from the Rec Advisory Committee. The town planner would also be non-voting, Parks and Rec director non-voting, and a select board representative non-voting.
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
Is it 9 volunteers plus those folks?
It was 9 volunteers, including the
Okay.
Rec Advisory Committee, but we can change that if you want to have, that's just 10 voting members. I was trying to keep it in.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm open to that.
Well, I was just thinking that where are we? The town planner and the recreation director.
So staff and select board rep non-voting. We could have the 9 volunteers and the Rec Advisory Committee member be non-voting.
Well, I don't mind having the other ones. I just want to be, yeah, you did make sure they were non-voting. But I just wanted to be clear if it was nine residents with the assistance of the town planner. and
Right,
the-
because each committee has a staff assigned.
Yeah.
But you're bringing up an interesting thing. Do we want the Rec Advisory Committee member to be non-voting, or do we want them as one of the 9? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would rather them just be there for advisory and to report.
Yeah.
Fine with me?
So, Mr. Dean, can we make that revision as well?
We will. So the Rec Advisory Committee member will be non-voting.
So it'll be 9 appointed volunteers voting. And then additionally, participation would be by the Rec Advisory Committee member, town planner, Mr. Bisson, and the select board rep. Is that accurate?
So
And once we have populated the group, who do we want to have start organizing the meetings? So somebody has to say,
Well,
let's try
I think-
Thursday or Friday.
I think much like we did with the Police Stakeholders Commission, we interviewed more than 9 people, and ideally, because I really would like to get a diverse and inclusive group of folks here. Much like we did there, I forget how many, but it was more than 9, and it was the same with the Sustainability Committee when we implemented that.
Yeah.
And then the board voted, appointed, as we did, those two, and we voted for the 9 folks. They met for the first time all together. I believe Selectwoman Coe and you were the police, and they voted on
no,
chair and vice chair.
No, I understand that completely. It's just that initial meeting to
Dave
get everybody.
We'd set it up.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
town manager's office.
I just want everybody to
Yeah.
know how it's going to be fashioned.
And we'll get to, once we, appoint the 9, then
Yeah.
we can work that out.
Can I ask a question? Because I wasn't on the board during either one of what the committees that you've talked about. If you had more than the number of committee members to interview, you'd interview them all, I'm assuming?
Correct.
And then did you do a lottery? Did you?
No,
go through?
we had all interviewed everybody, and we just started, select board members took a turn appointing.
Okay, thank
And
you.
you voted. And now, I vividly remember with the Sustainability Committee, there were 2 individuals who were nominated but did not receive 3 votes, so we moved on to the next
Okay.
one. So, that could happen.
Yeah.
But it was more with the police stakeholders, everyone took a turn.
I vaguely remember watching the meetings when those happened, but I just couldn't remember the specifics, so.
And even with that one, I think we had more applicants than we appointed, but I think the board was pretty consistent in appointing folks that each brought something different to the
Okay.
table, and I really think that, that would make this committee successful as well.
Thank you.
So, before we make the motion, any members of the public want to weigh in? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt the Exeter Pairpoint Park Stakeholders Advisory Committee charge as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 recusal. And Mr. Dean, you'll, once we start getting the good night, Mary. Once we start getting the applications, we'll stagger the interviews
Yes.
each night.
We'll do
So
that.
I want to get this moving.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very good.
great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome back, Mr. Chartrand.
It's good to be back.
You're sounding worse and worse, my friend.
Yeah, it's picking up steam.
Wait, what am I missing?
I don't know, because there aren't any abatements. Oh, you've got it, Julie and I don't.
Are we
page
doing,
missing in
are we
the
doing
packet?
these? These were in the packet for March.
From March 18th?
18th.
Okay.
Yes, they should be read.
You got it? Okay.
Sorry if that page was omitted by mistake.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve a veteran's credit for MAP 104, Lot 79, Unit 701, in the amount of $500 for tax year 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second in discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a veteran's credit for MAP 104, Lot 79, Unit 304, in the amount of $500 for the tax year 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a veteran's credit for MAP 87, Lot 8, Unit C10, in the amount of $500 for the tax year 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a veteran's credit for MAP 68, Lot 6, Unit 334, in the amount of $2,000 for the tax year 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a solar exemption for MAP 70, Lot 119, in the amount of $10,000 for the tax year 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And I move to approve elderly exemption for MAP 95, Lot 64, Unit 168, in the amount of $152,255 for tax year 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an elderly exemption for MAP 104, Lot 79, Unit 216, in the amount of $183,751 for the tax year 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to approve elderly exemption for MAP 104, Lot 79, Unit 1012, 1012, in the amount of $152,251 for the tax year 2024.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, I move to approve an elderly exemption for MAP 15, Lot 1, the amount of $183,751 for the tax year 2024.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Bisson, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet, you will see, I can say that our Land and Water Conservation Fund application has been moved to the next level of to be approved by the National Park Service. This is all good, but there's requirements that need to be done. Since we are now acquiring the parcel Planet Playground and absorbing it into 4 Hampton Road, we need to do a new boundary survey for 4 Hampton Road to be eligible. Since it was an LWCF property in the first place, the National Park Service needs to see the whole parcel and the new tax map and the deed, which I know we have now. So I'm hoping and talking with Assistant Town Manager Melissa Roy, we're hoping the board would entertain using ARPA funds to pay the $6,700 to have Doucette surveying complete the survey. Doucette previously did the survey at the rec park in 2019 for the design and exploration of expanding the park there. So it's as simple of going out and remarking their boundary lines and giving us the boundary. And they're available within 2 weeks. We have a hard deadline of May 15th to get the survey to the state so they can submit it to the National Park Service.
Did you anticipate a question I was going to ask? Mr. Dean, the balance, please?
$143,219.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
And thank you, Melissa.
I think this is pretty consistent with how the board has used ARPA funds, considering we used it to purchase the land. Any thoughts or questions, comments?
Is this it for the costs?
Are we done with your money?
I'm all done for a while asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about that rec revolving fund?
Common question often asked.
Yeah.
Are you done?
I wouldn't say the rec revolving fund really could absorb this. There's no payback to it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
I was
figured
just
too,
kidding.
but- Yeah, I'm fine.
It's been consistent.
Yeah.
It's a,
Yeah. Just want to know if there was any other hidden fees.
Nope.
Joking on that.
I
Okay. Shouldn't say that. Shouldn't joke when I'm sitting here.
okay, if there are no other concerns, then I'd entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend $6,700 of ARPA funds to contract Doucette Survey to complete the updated boundary survey for Recreation Park, which is required to meet the requirements for LWCF grant eligibility.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
And Mr. Dean, with the MS 232, what do you need from the board tonight for action?
Just to approve the 232 and submit it to the state, so approve it for signature.
Yep. Are there any questions? Straightforward. We do this every year. If there are none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration MS 232 Report of Appropriations actually voted and authorize the Select Board to sign it.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And finally, we have a special event application for the Alewife Festival, submitted by Kristen Murphy from the Exeter Planning Department. And this is fairly straightforward. This is a festival we have every May, and we enjoy. Any questions or comments about?
It's May 11th, everyone put it in your calendar, 9:30 to 1, or 10 to 1. I think the 9:30 is set up, but.
Yeah, it's 10 to 1.
Follow Conservation Commission's Facebook page. They always have events there.
Yes, they do. The Tree Committee and the River Advisory Committee as well.
Yes, and their Exeter TV updates.
And that's May 11th. And I would entertain a motion to approve the special event permit application for the Alewife Festival to be held May 11th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Dean, our last approval request was from Exeter Gas Realty that is looking for reimbursement of penalties and fees in the amount of $116.62. They admit and acknowledge that it's their responsibility to be responsible for their mail, but indicated that the mailing address had been incorrect, which resulted in this inconvenience. And again, they've made payment in full, I believe, including the penalties and fees, and they're looking for the reimbursement. Wishes of the board on this?
I'm fine with it. The only question I have is it anything like the water and sewer where it's like that once in 10 years? Does that count for $148?
No.
We don't have that as a matter of policy on tax
Thank you.
issues.
Just want to double check that because I would want them to make sure they're aware. Yeah.
I'm not bothered by the nominal amount, but Mr. Dean, I would ask you your thoughts on, I'm big on unnecessarily setting precedent that can come back to cause regret in the future.
I have a question since it's been so long since I moved. If we tell the tax collector or one body or one department that we have moved, does that, or we've become a resident, does that information get spread down to the tax assessor and the water or sewer department, or?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, Mr. Dean.
Sorry, Julie, could you repeat that for me?
Well, I was wondering if someone has new information like this, moving to a new place and their mail is still not caught up with them, if when they come in to tell the tax assessor or someone that they have a new address, does that information get slid over to the taxes?
It does.
And water and sewer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely.
And it appears as if the address was correct. It was the suite number that was incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which baffles me that it couldn't have.
It
found its
doesn't.
way.
I was just going to give you an example. My office,
Yeah.
the post office has really tightened up what they will deliver now. I've gotten mail in my office 4 months after someone mailed it to me. And it was because they didn't put the unit on, something as simple as that. So it's happening
Okay.
unusually, so it never used to. It does now.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I would be inclined not to do this because of the precedent argument.
And you asked me my opinion, Mr. Chair, and I agree that it does set a precedent.
Yep.
It's such a small amount of money. I don't, and I don't presume to know what matters to which taxpayer, but it just doesn't seem like the right thing to do in this case.
I tend to agree. Agreement on this end?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have convinced me of it.
Yeah.
Going down a slippery slope.
Mr. Dean, do you need a motion on this?
No, I don't. If that's the sense of the board, I'm good.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to town manager's report, please.
Okay, just to report again that the townwide revaluation process is continuing, and we do have information on the website for people to follow along with if they would like to do that. The assistant town manager and myself have been working on, along with our Welfare and Human Services Administrator, the transition with the new position that was established by the FY24 budget. So that is ongoing. I did speak at the Rotary on March 11th, one day prior to the town election, to talk to them about issues, and that was a good conversation with them. You notice tonight we have new chairs in the Novak room and also in the wheelwright room, so thank you to Parks and Recreation for that and all the great work that they've done rounding up the equipment and chairs from the bank closing that they've taken advantage of. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I would underline the gift of these.
The gift, yes. Donation. Yes. We've met twice now, subsequent to the vote on the police station and fire substation. And today we actually sat down with LaValle Brensinger, the firm that did the initial review and alternatives analysis for us for the site. So we had a conversation with them, and we'll be getting back to the board with some recommendations soon on that front. I've held 3 weekly operations meetings on March 8th, 15th, and 22nd. Those are well attended. We have them on Fridays at 10 o'clock in the morning via Zoom, so those have gone well. I was just noticed that I was appointed to the Finance Revenue Policy Committee of the NHMA, so if the board has any policy issues you want to forward to the NHMA, there's a formal conduit for that. And then we held our leadership meeting, our biweekly leadership meeting last week. The subject was the town election, good conversation with the senior leadership staff. And also we had our E-team meeting on Wednesday, which we normally do, our executive team meeting. And also just a reminder that the Kingston Road project is still on schedule for an April construction. So that is going well. And then a siphon update, we did have a disconnect with the drill head at 500 feet on the siphons. We did get word out to the board on that and also put it online. So the contractor is working on a solution to that problem. And they also are planning on using an air hammer as part of the solution. And that should start up tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. So residents out there in those areas that are affected need to be aware of that, and we're working to notify them as well.
I was just going to ask you, have we notified them?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Before 9 a.m. tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw it on social media. I think not Parks and Rec, DPW said, be aware, it's going to be noisy.
So that's my report.
Okay. But we have, other than social media, we've contacted the various.
We've done outreach, yes.
Great. Thank you. Select Board Committee reports. Start down here.
On last Thursday, March 21st, I met with a group convened by the Economic Development Director who's working on issues around trying to figure out a welcoming center for the train. And a lot of local business owners. I was there in my capacity as a business owner, but I also did mention that I'm a Select Board member, so I report to you all. It was a great meeting. Both Bob Hall and Don Brizzleton were there, who are the real train guys in town. And we heard a report from the gentleman who coordinates all the passenger rail on the Downeaster line. And I'm trying to remember his name, and I can't remember at the moment. Anyway, just wanted to let you know I was at that meeting.
Thank you.
Do Bob and Don have a succession plan for themselves?
That was not discussed at that meeting. We don't encourage them to think about succession.
No.
They're too vital and critical to the success of the train.
Selectwoman Gilman?
I had meetings since we were last here, but I was in the State House for all of them, or they were canceled. Like the Historic District Commission hasn't had any applications in a while, so we haven't had to meet. So our chairman, who's got a new baby, we haven't been able to see. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what happened at the State House Thursday. It was very frustrating in that all these committees go through the process of having bills introduced, hearing bills with the public comment, then having a separate meeting to decide, do we want to put them forward to the full floor? And then you get to the full floor, and they're either tabled or indefinitely postponed, which means we're postpone it to sometime. Basically, no, we don't want to do whatever you asked for. We had reconsiderations failed, and that was the goal, was to, it was a very frustrating day. We hardly got anything actually passed to the Senate. And for a municipal and county, let's see. We had one that was interesting, was allowing residential units in a commercial zone. And, we can do that already. Our commercial zones allow for a second floor. We have the MUNS program that's in the zoning ordinance for multi-use projects. And Exeter, I have to say, is very far forward in its thinking of land use and planning compared to what we get for bills. It's like, we can already do this, and they want to know how and why. So that one got tabled. So it could come back. It could come off the table. We just need 10 people to do it. And the reason people were voting against it was because what they were imagining was a strip mall like off of Portsmouth Ave, and people building on top of that, and the fire codes are different, and the materials are different. Adding structure to a structure is different. So it really just needed to be worded better, and we see a lot of those. We were going to do. I was going to speak to one establishing a study committee, which we're tired of doing, but sometimes you need them. A state program to make loans to low and moderate income households, or for the purpose of consolidating student loans. And before I even could get up from my chair, somebody else jumped up and indefinitely postponed it. So didn't get to hear it. Another SB2 town meeting form of government, it passed. It's actually not so bad, but it doesn't affect us because we already have SB2. Election of Stratford counties doesn't matter to us, except for apparently since it passed, we can try to pass our own redistricting in Exeter if we want to. General organizations. Lengths of COAS county officers, this really doesn't apply, except for I spoke in favor of the bill, and we got a voice vote, which is very unusual for municipal and county government. So everyone's got a pat on the back for that one. And the Gunstock ski area, again, it doesn't affect us unless you go skiing. And that's just the constant argument with the county, some county folks about how much money out of the proceeds, profits that the management should share with the county. That's kind of their deal, and they want more money, and it didn't snow much this year, so there's no money to give if they want to have a nice year, better year, or have more a choice of things to do. And then this one about the sale of county property. It doesn't affect us except for being notified. Apparently, there was one county that sold a historic building for $1. Without apparently an RFP or, just, hey, I'll take that building for $1. That's cool. There are some other ones that would affect us in doing business or helping businesses. And this one is establishing a child care workforce fund. And it sets up a special committee, or it came from the special committee on child care, and what they're recommending is that we set up a fund directly to support small family daycares, so they can cover their insurance or take one more child in. And that was found to be inexpedient to legislate, which is killing it, by one vote. There was a lot of stomping up and down on that one. And I think criminal justice. There was one more I wanted to tell you about. I'll come back to it. A robust climate education in schools? No. And the absentee ballot one was An interesting one about getting your absentee ballot in when we postponed for weather conditions, and it just did not make any sense. So it did pass. It was just to make you. It didn't stop you from doing what we already do. You can send in your absentee ballot or give it in on the day of. So I think that's it.
Thank you for the update. You've had a busy couple weeks.
Yeah, that was a 12-hour day, just to have everything be indefinitely postponed or tabled or,
Well,
otherwise voted down.
thank you for being there for us.
It's not, sometimes it's funny. It depends on who you're sitting next to.
Well, you are sitting next to Selectwoman Belanger, who I know has some committee reports ready.
Yes, I do. Sorry, guys. Housing Advisory Committee was Friday, March 15th. We got a update on current legislation that's going on in the House and regarding housing and zoning at both the New Hampshire House and Representatives and the Senate. And then we had a discussion on the two zoning ordinances that passed, the ADU and conversion ordinances, and the mixed-use neighborhood development, otherwise known as MUND, passed at the town election on March 12th, and the town manager was in our meeting and suggested ways of communicating what this could look like for people, and that a video or a point memo to get the word out on how these ordinances work, that maybe Dave Sharples or Doug Eastman, a town employee that knows their stuff, would do. Conservation Commission was actually on voting day, so I missed it, but I did watch it. Dave Sharples, our town planner, he had presented this to the planning board and they unanimously approved it. Zoning, oh my gosh, I'm going through everything but Conservation Commission. They approved it with one no. And he's going to come to the board at some point, I understand, about the urbanization exemption under RSA 483-B12 from the state shoreline regulations. The highlights were, one person on the Conservation Commission does not support it, and we've since received a letter on that. So, but it would go from Stewart Park to Founders Park, but would not include the mill. Our town planner felt that our ordinances take care of protecting the Squamscot, and that this, opting out of this would not harm the river in any way, but I'm going to leave it up to him when he presents it to the board. But if anybody wants to watch that conversation, it was the March 12th Conservation Commission meeting, and that conversation was the first one, and it started around 6:10. So that's the highlights on that. Rains Farm, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about this one, because this, I think for the next budget season, we really need to think about this, and we need to start thinking about it now. Kristen Murphy has gone above and beyond to get grants. She's run into a little bit of an issue where one was not awarded, and because of that, an awarded one, they've talked to her about withholding some of the funds that are still available. She found this out when she was scheduling her site walk, and they mentioned it. Where that's at, I don't know at the moment, but the point I wanted to make about this is the deterioration at Rains Barn is happening, and I don't think any of us could ask anything more of Kristen on trying to get this funded. So I think we would really maybe want to consider just getting some money, getting this done, and letting her work on grants for the next phase, because this phase part has lasted a few years and the deterioration keeps happening. Right. And again, I just want to stress how awesome Kristen, I think, has done on this. So I would like us to consider a different approach.
She's put in an extraordinary.
Unbelievable. And I just, there's like 5 things going on. So instead of dragging this out, I'll just ask people to please pay attention to Exeter updates and the Conservation Commission Facebook page. We've got so many things that these members are trying to do. And, yeah, I just think it's important that people try to participate because they're a great group of people and they're really trying to get people outdoors and doing things. And then the planning board meeting, unfortunately on Thursday, the 14th, was canceled at the last minute due to a lack of quorum.
That's unusual.
It's very unusual. And then I do have a question because I was going to go down to the West Side Drive meeting that was at the town hall last Thursday. I can't find it on video. Do you happen to know if Exeter TV recorded that?
They did, and
So
it's
just not
out there.
available yet. I tried to find it on the
Okay.
website. Okay.
I know it's on YouTube. That's usually where I go
Yeah, I went
for
to the
meetings.
meeting minutes and looked
Yeah.
for the video. So anyway, that was my report.
Thank you. Terrific. Real briefly, Arts and Culture Commission did not have their meeting due to quorum issues. I attended the Tree Committee, and they've started their planning of their trees that they're going to plant with their new budget and kind of talked about that. What else? Swayze Parkway. That was a fairly quick meeting, a lot of placeholders, waiting for the springtime, waiting for the siphons to finish up. I did let them know, though, Mr. Dean, either April 15th or April 29th, I'd like to invite them back to the Select Board meeting to talk about the roadway. And I thought that in the interim, if you could talk to Mr. Cronin, our new Public Works Director, who comes in with a fresh set of eyes and maybe some unbiased ideas as to how we could do some work down there. But ultimately, they agreed with the possibility of maybe having 3 or 4 different options and then bringing it to the public for 3 formal public hearings and just advertising these hearings and making sure folks come in. But they are dedicated and ready to work with us. So either the 15th or the 29th of April. Either one worked for them, so we can work that out. What else? River Advisory Committee met last Thursday. Mr. Velasich updated them on the siphons. Jake Santonio gave an update on, since the last public meeting at the end of February, the feasibility study will be finalized April 30th. Incidentally, the day of the River Advisory meeting, the 21st of March, was the last day that public input, public testimony could be taken in. There were a couple residents from Brentwood that spoke. We will be meeting at some date in April, yet to be determined. Once the feasibility study is completed, the River Advisory Committee will be tasked to make a recommendation to the Select Board, and then it will come back to us. So just to get ready for that. I want to also, we received an invitation, the board did, from Renee Allen, the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire, in partnership with R.M. Allen and the Exeter Park Committee, invite you to the marker unveiling honoring Exeter's Black Revolutionary War soldiers and early Black community. It's going to be held Saturday, May 4th at 10 a.m., 223 Water Street. The unveiling ceremony will be followed by refreshments. I plan to attend, and hopefully all of you will as well. And,
what was the time?
May 4th at 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, correspondence.
Can I say one more thing that I left off? This is not something that directs the administration of this government in particular, but it is a social issue that I was asked by many people about. It's the end-of-life legislation, medically assisted something determination, and it's MAID, anyway, is the title. It's very controversial, as you can imagine, much like the beginning of life is. But it has many, many guardrails, and it cannot be done lightly. It can't be done by a person by themselves. Doctors are, more than one doctor is involved, and you have to be terminally ill with, diagnosed with just 6 months to live. It went through several motions. The first one was to table it. That was overwhelmingly rejected, so then we moved on to the actual motion that was on the table, which was ought to pass as amended. That won by 3 votes. And then a motion was made to indefinitely postpone it, so we couldn't reconsider it. at a later time, and that was nixed by an even larger body, group of votes. So just for folks to know, if they want to talk to their senators, this might be a topic that they're going to be talking a lot about, so.
Great, thank you. Going through our correspondence, we had our legislative bulletin from the NHMA. We had an email from Congressman Chris Pappas's office promoting the Congressional Art Competition. And there's some material in our packet regarding that. We had information from our Health Officer, Madison Bailey, on tick prevention and educational program. We had a note from Eversource that they have completed the transmission structure replacement project. And lastly, we had a letter from Department of Environmental Services regarding the preliminary large wall citing large groundwater withdrawal permit application. Reviewing the board calendar, if we could do this real quick, I'd like to ideally get us through June, July. After next week, we'll resume meeting every other week unless something emergent comes up, so I'll speak slowly. April 1st, April 15th, April 29th, May 13th, May 28th, which is a Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, 6/11, 6/25, and 7/8.
6/11.
6/25.
Can you
It
go
should
back
be
to May?
6/10.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I didn't hear what you said.
It should be 6/10, a Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6/10?
It's okay.
Yep. And then that would be 6/24.
So sorry, go back to May.
May 13th,
May 13th.
May 28th.
That's the Tuesday.
Yes.
May 28th. Oh, you know what? I will not be here that day.
Okay. And did you get June?
Yes.
Why is it the weeks that I'm not in Concord, I don't have any board meetings?
Yes, I will. Yes, and yes, so I will not be here the 28th.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. And then at our next meeting on April 1st, let's think about, we'll do our select board committee reorganization. If folks want to start thinking about
What
their
day did
committees
you just say?
for that April 1st, next Monday.
Ah, okay.
And is there a Saturday that works for everybody for our goal setting?
I'm fine. My trip is not happening.
I thought we were going to do it on the 27th
Of
April.
I will be out of town,
Julie will be out of town.
or coming back
thought we
from
had
out of
said
town.
I think that was based upon a trip.
That I was supposed to be on that I'm not going on?
Yeah, I am.
All right, so
Okay.
27th doesn't work for you.
No. Otherwise, I'm fine.
I can do anything.
Yeah, the 20th is fine, just it's the town cleanup day.
The 13th is okay.
I'd be okay with that.
April 13th, Mr. Sharp?
Yeah.
No?
I can move an appointment. Either that or we can start at 10:30, 11:15.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you want to say 11 o'clock on April 13th?
yeah.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And I know we have to do the all boards, but we're gonna punt just a little bit further.
Yeah.
Selectman Blanchard.
I just put it in my calendar as a reminder.
All right, so everyone has those dates. We'll go over them again. So at this time, if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under 91A, 32A.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Chartran?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Belanger?
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. The board will be going into non-public.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.